It's a complete contrast for Manchester United as they face the repercussions of defeat to Tottenham in the Europa League final.
We understand that Rúben Amorim will still be manager at the beginning of next season and continues to have the full support of the club. That is despite leading them to their worst ever Premier League finish.
Amorim claimed after Wednesday's defeat he would quit if the board or fans didn't want him to stay, but there's no suggestion United bosses are considering his future. So that means Amorim will be heavily involved in the club's rebuild this summer. It's reported he'll have around £100 million in the transfer market. However, that defeat in Bilbao and missing out on Champions League football means United potentially missed out on up to another £100 million in extra revenue for the club. Now, with that, who could arrive at Old Trafford this summer? Now, earlier this week, we told you Wolves forward Matheus Cunha is expected to make the move, with United expected to pay his £62.5 million release clause. Ipswich's Liam Delap is also a target. Now, we understand he would be happy to make the move, but has been linked to Newcastle and Chelsea. So would the lure of Champions League football affect the decision? Well, if United want to make big changes to the squad, it's likely that the transfer funds will need to be topped up by sales. Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal wants to sign United captain Bruno Fernandes. Rúben Amorim said himself he's not for sale. However, Fernandes admitted if he would leave, it would be if the club wanted to sell him. Now, one player who has an uncertain future is Alejandro Garnacho. Now, he said, we'll see what happens next after being a substitute in the Europa League final. Chelsea and Napoli were linked with the winger in January. Kobbie Mainoo has also been linked with a move. He's got 2 years left on his contract and is in talks over a new deal, but speculation remains. Now, with United making moves to sign attacking players, what does the future hold for these two, Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee? Well, they've both struggled for goals, and there are reports claiming clubs in Italy are interested. But the most likely players to be sold, though, are those out on loan right now. Now, Barcelona sporting director Deco says they like Marcus Rashford. Rashford will make a decision on his future at the end of the season, but wants to play Champions League football. And what about these two? Come up here. Now, Chelsea have an obligation to sign Jadon Sancho, but could pay £5 million for him to return to Manchester United instead, while Antony has been in great form since joining Real Betis on loan. Christian Eriksen and Victor Lindelof, meanwhile, are expected to leave when their contracts expire next month. So a lot to consider for Sir Jim Ratcliffe as he oversees football operations at the club. And there was more bad news for United's finances yesterday. Now, the share price on the New York Stock Exchange dropped significantly on Thursday. The price dropped by 8.6% in the space of just 24 hours, making it one of yesterday's biggest fallers.
What I don't buy is this idea that the whole squad is somehow unsuited, that it needs a radical clear out. Yes, they do need to do some trading. They need to move on some players, some of the higher earners, some of the older players. But if you look at players who United have let go in the last couple of years, guys like Scott McTominay, who's now thriving at Napoli, Aaron Wan-Bissaka at West Ham, Antony, who's had such a good season at Betis, and Rashford, actually, at Aston Villa, the problem is not the players. The problem is the culture that they're steeped in. Something in that club is making them underperform, and that has to be cultural. And cultures take years to change.
If we're being realistic about it, it's not like they're going to change the full starting 11. There's absolutely not the funds to do that for a start. I think there's quite a few players that either need to up their game or they need to be changed. They need some competition. Would Rasmus Højlund benefit from having someone like Liam Delap coming in and forcing him to fight for his place? I wouldn't expect there to be wholesale changes, but a lot of that will depend on how successful they are in managing to get players out. They've got this £100 million budget that they can spend, which should be able to get them their targets that they want in terms of Cunha, who should cost them around 63 million, and then Delap, if they could get him as well, that he would cost around 30, but then they can bolster that by sales. But like I said, historically in the last decade, they've not been very good at negotiating